Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Today is the 206th episode of Be With Me, 7 Minutes of Biblical Wonder. And it is great to be with you this morning. Do you guys know that you generally are the first person that I talk to in the morning? I suppose besides God. And today we're going to ask the question of you. If you could ask Jesus any question, what would it be? So we get that from a passage in John chapter 7, 5 verses 32 through 36. And we find Jesus at the Feast of Booths. It's a multi-day feast in Jerusalem. And we find this sense of genuine inquiry. Yesterday we looked about believe what you know, and we all have limited information, and making steps of faith with that. They're asking the question in episode 205 is, are you the Christ? Are you the real guy? Are you the one that we have been waiting for? And it's a genuine question, and we find that continues today. So let me read. This is verse 32 of John chapter 7. The Pharisees heard the crowd muttering these things about him, and the chief priests and the Pharisees sent officers to arrest him. So there's a certain element here where the truth of this passage that I'm trying to get to is not true, and they're trying to stop what Jesus is doing. Arrest means to stop him, take his liberty, and stop his teaching. And that does happen eventually. But here, verse 33, Jesus then said, I will be with you a little longer. Then I'm going to him who sent me. You will seek me, and you will not find me. Where I am, you cannot come. And this is the part that caught my attention today. The Jews said to one another, where does this man intend to go that we will not find him? And then they speculate here. Does he intend to go to the dispersion among the Greeks and teach the Greeks? And then they ask a question. What does he mean by saying, you will seek me and you will not find me? And where I am, you cannot come. So first let's talk about the officers that are sent to arrest him. A little bit later on in John chapter 7, we find that they come back empty-handed. And they say, no one ever spoke like this man. And we'll talk about this in further days, but the arresters get arrested at the arrest, which I think is hilarious. But then Jesus says some crazy things. Crazy. That's not the right word, but challenging things. I will be with you a little longer, and then I'm going to him who sent me. Things that are not easily understood. Let's just say it that way. You will seek me, and you will not find me. Where I am, you cannot come. And frankly, in the Bible, there's lots of things like this that Jesus says that we don't quite get our arms all the way around. And then I love this about the Jews, that they say to one another, well, where does he intend to go that we won't find him? So they're in Israel, they're in Jerusalem, center of their religious world. And they ask, does he intend to go to the dispersion among the Greeks? Now, what does that mean? So the Jews were dispersed. The Jews are not just in Jerusalem, they're elsewhere in the dispersion. And the Greek world was the world empire before the Roman Empire. You remember Alexander the Great, I think that was 324 BC, if I'm just making that number up. But that's approximately right. And it was the world empire, it's the world language. A little later on, the New Testament is going to be translated into Greek. The Old Testament in the Septuagint, And so when they talk about the world, sort of a shorthand for that would be the Greek world. So it's not in this hyper important Jewish locale, and specifically in the temple, which we talked about for the last few days. So I like this, that the Jews are really asking the question, what does he mean by this? So they ask a question. So let me just refer us to politics for a second, because I think this is a good example of being a bad example. And sometimes when you see a reporter ask a politician a question, they're not really asking a question. They're making an accusation via the mode of a question. And I think these guys here in this passage, at least for now, it gets a little dicier later on as Jesus gets closer and closer to the crucifixion. But for now, these are genuine questions. They're genuinely confused. They're re-asking Jesus, and in this case, they're asking each other because probably they didn't have a specific opportunity to re-ask it of Jesus. So they're asking good questions, and I think they're sincere. What do you mean by this? I wonder if he means, and then they kind of speculate. So here's my question for today. If I could ask Jesus any question, what would it be? If I could ask Jesus any question, what would it be? Would it be about heaven or hell? Would it be about a particular person or a people group? Or maybe an activity of his like election and free will? Maybe an event from history. Why did you do this? Or about his word. How did you preserve it? Or maybe about creation, or maybe something in his character. Lord, I don't understand your wrath, or maybe. Or history. What about this in history, Lord? Or how about future and death? And I think these are good questions. These are just ones that popped in my head as I was considering asking you to ask this question. Don't ask my question, ask your question. Here's where I want to leave us. I think the people in John chapter 7 asked good questions, asked real inquiry, and had real curiosity. Yesterday it was, could you be the Christ? And then in this one, well, what do you mean by this specific thing that you said? Maybe you ask, what do you require of me? Will you help me, Lord? So I love this about them, that they're genuinely listening, they have genuine inquiry, and I think it's a good example today. So let's all, as we conclude, let's all ask a question of Jesus. If I could ask any question of Jesus, this is what it would be. ... Go ahead and ask.